Okay. Alright guys, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala, amma ba'd. Okay, Bismillah. So we got to chapter 7. This is Khabib's nice socks, I like it. Transition to adulthood. This is the transition to, I'm supposed to take this off, right? Yeah. His transition to pretty much college life. They didn't always live in Khabib. They didn't. They moved there, and they actually, his elder brother Muhammad Magomed, he was studying in a Dagestani/Turkish college, and you find a lot of these Islamic governments in the Caucasus regions, etc. There's a lot of support from Turkey over there, and so anyway. He was hoping that he could also join his brother. He passed all of his exams, had really high scores in all of his exams, so he's ready to move. And so for his dad, it was a little difficult because his dad had a lot of coaching opportunities where he was in Kuraval, and they had gotten their home, and they were sort of settled. But anyway. These types of things are necessary sometimes in life. So anyway, we see that Khabib is now making this transition. Over there, they came from village life. So they came from village life. What was it? They looked like villagers. And this is a big city in Khabib. So everyone looked at them as being villagers, as being these urban folk, as being people backwards. And this is something that's really problematic. We do this a lot. We actually make this mistake often. We see someone who comes from overseas, they might have an accent or something, we think that they're backwards. This is very problematic actually. It's very problematic because accents or way of dress or appearance has never been a way by which we judge people. We don't actually judge people at all. Allah Ta'ala is the one who judges. But we have this idea that we're better because we live in maybe a first world country or in a big city, and that's problematic. We have to remove that. Because just as we hate to be judged by others, we don't like walking in maybe to a grocery store wearing, a qamis or something or a kufi and people judging us. The same thing, people come into the masjid, they have a slight difference about themselves and we begin to judge them immediately. It's extremely problematic. And so for Khabib, when he moves into that region and become judgmental right away, it's extremely problematic to receive that judgment. And this is why one of the things we see about Khabib is he wouldn't judge people. Even when he fought them, he wouldn't judge them. Yeah, he would make comments about them. He says that, he would say that they are a professional fighter, they've made it to this stage, so I know they're good. I still think I'll beat them, but I know they're good. He wouldn't cast judgment against them. There's a very interesting interview. He's being interviewed, and this is before his Tony Ferguson fight. And with this fight, Tony Ferguson has just had a legal issue. And what was the legal issue? His wife had called the police because he was having hallucinations. Now this individual, Tony Ferguson, you don't have to know who he is, but you should know the background. He and Khabib were the two best fighters in their particular weight class. I think Khabib had a 14-fight winning streak and Tony had a 12-fight winning streak. They were scheduled 5 different times to fight each other. The first time, Khabib had an injury, knee injury, he had to pull out. Second time, Tony had pneumonia, so he pulled out. Third time, Khabib got sick from his weight cut, he pulled out. Fourth time, Tony tore an MCL ligament, he pulled out. Fifth time, the pandemic occurred, the whole thing was canceled. So this was like a big rivalry. So now, Tony in his own home has this hallucination. Wife calls the police because her husband's going through what he's going through. And at an interview later, before the next fight, Khabib is asked the question, with Tony, there's been reports about his mental health. So Khabib has a very interesting response. Not verbatim, but he says, guys, this is a personal thing he's going through. I'm not here to judge people's personal situations. All of us have difficulties, and we should be there to help them and not to blame them. And everyone was quiet. And this is a fighter. Fighters, they make fun of one another. You want to look bigger, stronger, etc. But he completely says, we don't judge other people for their difficulties, their problems. We should help them instead. And if you look back in his life, it's situations like this where he had to feel those things that he in turn did not want to give it to others. So what's the lesson? The lesson for us is not to judge others, but also to remember times in our lives when we were put in a situation where we felt horrible. And now also think, I don't want to do that to someone else. And that's the wise individual. The smart or wise individual is not the one with a lot of knowledge per se. The smart or wise individual is the individual who learns from the mistakes of others. That's what a wise individual is. We don't make the mistake and learn, we learn from the mistakes of others. And so, of course we make the mistake, we learn from it as well. So we see here that he learned it from others. He saw the way they treated him, he didn't like it, so he made sure he didn't treat others that way. Everyone has some flaw, some difficulty. We're not here to judge one another. Now, when he finally arrives there, they're renting a home next to the courtyard of the college. So he lived right by the college, and there are about 15 of us. I was the third youngest in the team. Some of us were studying, some were training, and some of us were doing both. So what his dad did was he shifted his team over. They all lived, 15 of them, in a small home, or into a home next to, a two-story home next to the college. And now they were getting used to city life. And they were still training for their national, international competitions, and his brothers and others were still studying, and some were doing both. Now, what happened, because people would often consider them to be backwards, it would cause a lot of tension. And a lot of fights broke out quite a bit. Now, Khabib now is fluent in many languages. But back then, he was fluent in Avar, he wasn't fluent in Russian. So people would crack jokes about them, they would make fun of them, and he did not know what was going on. But he could tell they were making fun of him because they would say something, they would laugh, they would say something else, and be with a demeaning tone. So what would end up happening is that these guys from the Dagestani team, they would be made fun of. They didn't know what was happening, but they could tell they were being made fun of, so they would just hit them back. And then a lot of fights began to occur like this. And so what Khabib's father began to do was he would try to make sure that they focus more on their training. And because they had 15 people in a home, they actually decided, okay, we have to take our aggression out in different ways. Because we can't just keep fighting like this. So they decided to shift their focus of their aggression. So they applied to be a football team. And they applied to be a football team, and then they would play other teams. Sometimes they would get into fights. Father, he always calls him father, Abdul Manaf, did not like this at all. And if they got into a fight, then they would be punished. And this is something really awesome about Abdul Manaf. Look, to be a man has many components, and part of it is to be able to stand up for yourself. But also, to transgress is not okay. No one should fight. No one should fight. Everyone should use all the steps possible before fighting. I was speaking to someone about legal ramifications for fighting. Let's say you get in a fight on the street. This is one of the worst things you can do. Because if you get a fight in the street, even that person throws the first punch, but if you throw it harder and hurt that person can sue you. Let's say you don't want to punch them, but you put them to a submission move, and you accidentally tweak a joint, or you pull a ligament or tear a ligament, that person can sue you. It's like there's no winning. And this is why all the people who teach combat, like my kids in their taekwondo, etc., when I did a few different combat classes as well, what would they always teach us? They would say, disengage and run. The first thing you want to do is avoid the situation. If you can't avoid it, you talk it down. If you can't talk it down, you look for an escape. If not, you disengage and you run. This doesn't make you weak. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned what? لَيْسَ الشَّدِيدُ بِالسُّرْعَةِ. The strong one is not the one who can wrestle. You might be the strongest person. You going out and proving and hurting people does not make you strong. Who is innama shadid? Rather, the one who is strong is the one who what? Has control over his anger and emotions. That's the true strong one. If a person comes in and shows how strong and starts punching everyone, that doesn't show strength. Strength is when you know you can harm someone and you let it go. And you disengage and you walk away. And this is how the Prophet ﷺ saw his Sahaba. They were strong. Don't underestimate their effort, their strength. But Allah initially did not give them permission to fight. He did not give them permission to fight. Not because it's a bad thing or good thing, because there's a sense of understanding what your limits are. There's a sense of understanding what hilm is. You guys know what hilm is? You guys know what sabr is? Sabr is patience. Patience, Hisham comes and he punches me in the face. Now he's stronger than me. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to hit you back. Well, that's not patience. I know he's stronger than me anyway. Patience is I'm stronger than Hisham. He does something to me. I can get him back. But I realized, you know what? I'm just going to leave this. It's not good to engage. That's hilm. And Allah Ta'ala is Al-Halim. Rasulullah ﷺ was a person of hilm, and that's a characteristic of our deen. This is what Abdul Manaf was teaching them, that he would not accept this type of behavior when they would go and they would do things that are impermissible, not only in deen but also just in public normal interaction with one another. Everyone's had probably in one of your classes in school that one kid who always gets in a fight, who's a bully. No one likes that person, and we're representing deen on top of that. So you have to know how to handle yourself. Work out, yes. Learn to defend yourself, yes. Be strong, yes. Use it unnecessarily, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Now, when joining the college, Khabib begins to mention how it was very difficult for them. He mentioned specifically about his first day. As soon as I arrived in Mukhaj Khalaf, I began to prepare for the first day of lessons the following day. I remember how father got me a red jacket. It was the color of our college uniform. But the jacket was a little different from those of the other students. It was darker in shade. Someone had given it to father. Apparently, he did not have the money to buy one like everyone else, and so he gave this one to me. For the first time in my life, I wore a tie, also part of the uniform. I liked to look respectable. This was a new world for me. It was difficult for me to study in college. I felt it was from the very beginning. New environment, people, classmates, everything was unaccustomed. I was a rural boy who had grown up among relatives and fellow villagers, and everything that was happening now was to me fantastic. I began to perceive everything differently. I even saw my brothers, whom I had known for many years, and with whom I had lived in the same house, as entirely different people. Stop over here, because we were going to talk about how it went wrong initially. You know, we live in a different financial situation than our parents did. I remember reading and hearing about my parents' difficulty when they were younger. A lot of us, we don't know how much our parents struggled when they were raising us. You know, some people, their parents might be physicians right now, but they were like residents when we were born, etc. My dad's not a physician. It's really important for us to take a step back and look with mature eyes. I'll give an example. I told you guys about once when my mom, you guys know what khagina is? Khagina? You know what khagina is? No one know khagina? You've eaten khagina before. Khagina is this type of anda salan. This is egg salan. You have eggs, you have onions, and you make this type of curry from it. It's very delicious. And so my mother, when they got married, my mother came from a home that was a little more middle class, maybe even middle class to upper middle class. My father came from a home that was lower class. My father lived in a village, and he was just telling me the other day, like his father made like 30 rupees a month. It wasn't much at all. And so when my mom and dad got married, she was making khagina once. So she asked for them two, should I use 2 eggs or 3 eggs? So he said, just use 1. So she thought, no, should I use 2 eggs or 3 eggs for us two? And he said, use 1. And he became a little like serious about it. So she didn't understand why she used 1. Later she found out, my father, he's one of 7 siblings, plus 2 siblings who passed away, so not 9, mom and dad 11, and then they always had 1 or 2 people who were in and out of the house. So between 11 people, they would only use 1 egg and just a lot of onions. Here they're talking about using 2 or 3 for 2 people. You know, but you know Arnold Schwarzenegger, you guys heard of him before? You know how many eggs he used to eat for his protein maintenance when he used to be in the prime of his workout? 15 to 25 a day. So 25 eggs in a day. Here they're debating about using 1 per person. But when he was younger, they would only have 1, enough for the whole family. So they come from a situation sometimes where things were not as easy. And granted, your parents are, second generation, stuff like that. It's a little different. But sometimes when your parents are unable to give you something, one reason might be for your tarbiyah. If you give you everything, then you're always going to expect everything. But the other reason is sometimes they can't afford it. And it doesn't feel good when a parent cannot give his child or her child what they seek. It's really important for us as kids at that point to be patient and to be grateful. When kids begin to complain to their parents, oh, you don't get me anything, and the parent can't afford it, but they're not telling you this, it breaks their heart. And here we see with Khabib, his father couldn't get him back home. He couldn't afford it, a school uniform. His father did his best. And as children, we have to notice that our parents are trying. You don't know all the details. You don't know the finances. You don't know all those details, and no one expects you to. But have a good opinion of your parents that if they didn't get it for you, there's one of two reasons usually. And those reasons are not that they hate you, not that they don't want to give you something. It's usually one, they can't afford it, or two, for your tarbiyah, they're not giving it. But aside from that, they want you to have it. And if you have that positive opinion of your parents, even when you don't get something or receive something that you were seeking, inshallah, you will benefit because you know there's a reason behind it. Now, Khabib, he mentions, my studies in college were going badly. I understood practically nothing in the educational program. I had come from Caraval as an excellent student, but here everything fell apart. And what was the problem? English was the problem. More precisely, all college subjects were taught in English. In Caraval, we had one English lesson per week. In the college, we had not just 15 language lessons, but in addition, all the other subjects were taught in the language of Shakespeare, which I was an English teacher, right? So I can tell you how problematic it was. Now, this is going to be something that I want to speak to all of you about. How many of you consider yourself, actually I don't want to ask, I don't want to embarrass anyone here. Studies aren't easy. Studies are not easy. Where do you go to school? West? North? How is North? It's good? Is it a good school? You guess? How's the social environment? A lot of Muslims there? Decent amount. Are there more at West, East, or North? Yeah, I heard East has a lot of Muslims there. Where do you go?
I go to East.
You go to East? A lot of Muslims?
Yeah.
What's the environment like?
The environment's pretty good. I know, there's a lot of people from Carolina.
Yeah. Is it diverse, both of those? Diverse school? Diverse school? Where do you go to school? Oh, you're a DS? Oh, yeah, okay, that's cool. Is it diverse? I'm just joking. Yusuf, where do you go to school? Sorry? Where's Chippewa located? Over here?
Oh, wait, no,
Hadley, oh, so you're in Whedon. Okay, cool. Nice. Okay, no, I'm just wondering. No one here goes to West? Is West diverse? Is it? Okay, I don't know. I haven't. My kids go to Islamic school, so I don't know where they go exactly. Really? I thought West was the least diverse. Where's South located? What's that? Really?
Yeah, I think that was like the worst out of all.
Oh man, that's messed up. Why you gotta judge you? I'm joking. So one of the things to recognize is when you are studying, this is extremely important. He mentions over here, I was enrolled in the 7th grade at the college. The study of chemistry and physics was also in English. Dear reader, you already, I think, understood what was going on in my head during this period. Although one could not say that I gave up, of course not. I was really trying to learn and take extra classes, but still little was working out with my studies. Unlike school life, my life in the street was much more successful. Now, if you're struggling in something, you have to try to be better. You have to try to improve anywhere in life. But one of the things you want to have is always, you don't want to have an out. You don't want to always lose in life. So that's why I tell guys who are struggling in school, what should you do? Join sports, work out, get a hobby, all those things. Because if it's always, oh man, I messed up, then you're gonna feel like a screw up. But if you're like, okay, school didn't go well, but I'm doing well in extracurricular. I'm having a good relationship with my family. I'm able to excel in A, B, and C, and then school's not going well. The success of this area will help school. And even if it doesn't, it'll make you feel that you're not useless. And it's really important. There were times in school where I would sit there and I'd be like, man, what is going on? Especially science class, oh my God. Science and math were horrible for me. I'm telling you, I'm not desi, just by appearance. Nothing else. I don't speak Urdu, I don't eat desi food, I don't know anything about science and math. But it's one of those things where I really struggled. So what did I have to do? I found success by doing what? By being good at other things. And so I did not feel like an absolute loser all the time. And he mentions here, every day I built up my record of street fighting. I fought, again, not encouraging violence. I fought a lot at that time. My brothers and I became a serious force in the local area. No one wanted to deal with us again after coming up against us. I boldly set about sorting things out with one and all, knowing that if something went wrong, I had a whole football team behind me, each of whose members, if necessary, will deal with my abuser and his buddies. However, this never happened. I always came out the winner from the street fights. With the move to the city, I became fascinated by computer games. Father and my brothers did not like it very much, but I always used the opportunity to go and play. I love to play Red Alert, even now if I have the time to play it. So, stop. It was the same thing. He found success other places. Now, his father notices this. His father notices this. And so what does he do? He recognizes that, look, this guy has a lot of aggression. He's not doing well in school. So we have to take him out of those situations where he's fighting everyone. Because you didn't get into legal trouble, you didn't get into academic trouble, you didn't get suspended in school, something is going to go wrong. And so what finally happened, his father, the doors of the gym were always open. Father equipped a small gym on the ground floor of the house. We rented. It was very much like the one we had built in our house in Curval. We trained a lot every morning and every evening. At that time, I was engaged in freestyle wrestling, etc. When father saw he's being aggressive and he's using his strength incorrectly, what did he do? Again, it's that leadership quality. You identify, look, if you're doing something wrong and I yell at you, it's not going to help. If you're doing something wrong and I beat you, it's not going to help. If you're doing something wrong and I give you the opportunity to correct yourself and feel like you're worthwhile, that's what's going to help. And so what his father did was saw the type of struggle that he was going through. I mean, it wasn't his fault he didn't know English. They didn't speak English. I mean, he took English once a week or a couple times a week. Now he's coming to a university that's functioning with English as his main language. It's difficult for him. And now he's getting upset. He's beating everyone up. So what does father do? Use that aggression properly. Come in the gym. And he sets up a gym. Now, you don't have any children, but these are lessons you have to learn. So when you get older and you're in a position to do things, that you're able to cause that to be a means of change for people. So you have children or you are able to help a community. These are things you have to keep in mind. And trust me, when it comes to physical exertion, physical activity, it's not just good for your aggression, it's also good for your mental health. How many of you have ever weightlifted before? Have you ever weightlifted and you lifted more at one time than you did previously? So you did maybe 100 pounds and now you lift 110 or something. It feels good. It's a very tangible victory. Math is not a tangible victory. I mean, there is to some extent. English is not necessarily a tangible victory. You're picking up something heavy and you lift it, you move it in a way you weren't able to do before. There are clear victories there. It's a W. And a person feels good about it. And so those types of things, it's very, I mean, it's I don't want to say it's primal, but it's very inherent, especially in young people, to see gains and growth in any capacity they can. And so Khabib's dad, he allowed for, and I think for women this is important as well. For me, someone who struggles a little with my mental health, working out is so important. So important. Because one, you know, you have dopamine and you have just the secretion of certain types of dopamine, what's it? Yes. So these the neurochemical secretions, for example, what's a better term for it? The secretions, yeah. They help cause a balance that a lot of people don't have otherwise, especially in our stagnant and our sedentary lifestyles. Human beings, we always moved. We always moved. Have you ever had to walk home before from school or something further than you were supposed to, right? Like you're not supposed to walk home, but you walked home. Ever happened to you before?
No, I live like right next to me.
Oh, that's different, yeah. Have you ever had like maybe like your parents were out to pick you up from the masjid or something, you just walk, and you know how you're like, man, I don't want to walk. And you start walking, you think, man, this stinks. And you walk, and then as you go further and you start getting closer to home, it's like, man, I'm almost there. And you get home, and that's like it's a victory. At least I remember a few times I've walked home from school when I was younger. It was a couple miles, and you're like, oh, I can't believe it. I remember one time I lived, so you might understand this, Rashad. You know where the Whole Foods by where Shaikh Saad lived? So now, I mean, so like in the area, Peterson, and so I lived there before. You came over once to my home. Yeah, so the town home. So I had to give khutbah at Northwestern, and I finished the Northwestern. So my wife, she had to go somewhere, and she was just late. Northwestern, Evanston, Lake. So I walked home. It took me about 3 hours to walk home. I remember I forgot how far it is, but Northwestern, the lake, all the way to Peterson and Cicero is a walk. And she just wasn't picking up. I don't know where she was, etc. And we had gone together. So I'm like, I'm just gonna walk home. Because I walked home, and man, I remember initially I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing? And finally I'm like, man, as I got closer, I'm like, man, I hope none of my friends see me and they offer me a ride home. I'm doing this. I'm gonna get there. There's a victory. There's a feeling you get for physically accomplishing something. And these steps, etc., that you get, even like, I have a Fitbit. So when I see myself short on steps, I get up and just walk around the house. There's something about it psychologically that really plays into a person's well-being. And time again, this comes up. This idea of having physical victories. Not fights, physical victories. For your psychological betterment, your mental health, your spiritual growth, your academic growth, etc. And this is what he does over here. When father saw that he was struggling, what does he do? Doesn't necessarily beat him, puts him in a situation where he's using his aggression for the better. We've gone, I've seen you guys before, swimming at the pool before. I've seen you guys jump off the diving board, especially you get crazy off the diving board. You guys remember the first time you did your flip or whatever? Was it scary? Yeah. Now you guys nail it. I actually did after I saw you guys. It wasn't good because I jumped to do a flip and then my foot hit the diving board and I sort of flipped sideways and I belly, what's it called? Belly flop? Yeah, oh, it hurt. But it was cool. Now I did it. I'm good. I can do it again now. But the first time's always the scariest. But then you achieve something like, wow, I did it. Like my boys, when they saw you guys, like, we're going to do it. Oh, we're going to do this. Fine. I guess the lifeguard's there. And then they did it and they did it again. Now they're just chilling. It's this victory. Have small physical gain victories. You don't have to lift 1,000,000 pounds. Small things where you walk, where you do, like I'll give you, one of my friends and I, we have this challenge. There's this guy who did 1,000,000 push-ups last year in 2021. You guys read this article? So he's like 50-something years old, did 1,000,000 push-ups. So my friends and I, we made a contest. We did 100,000 sit-ups, 50,000 push-ups, 25,000 squats for 2022. And every day we document our stuff. I forgot how many we've done so far in the first 16 days, but it's a lot. But it's only by doing a small amount every day. Make some basic target goal for yourself. Reach it. Set a new goal, reach it. In your physical gains, you will see the effects in your life. We have one of our clients that we train. He's a scholar. He works at a madrasa all day. And he, alhamdulillah, has lost quite a few inches off his stomach. He's looking good, he's smiling. So I was asking those Ustad, I'm like, oh, so how are you feeling? He's like, Saad, when I used to pray, I used to only think about the pain in my knees and the pain in my back. Now I can actually focus. It's like, I feel so much better. I'm better with my family. There's a lot to be said about taking an opportunity to have physical enjoyment. You don't have to play sport. Go for a walk. Go out in nature. When I was struggling with my mental health in particular, I remember my sheikh, he called me, he's like, I want you to go in nature every day. Take a walk. Go experience things outside of these screens and these walls all day. And that's the same message that we obviously would see with Khabib's life, but the same message I want to give to you guys today. So we started 10 minutes early because I think we're supposed to end early because of the elections. So I'm going to stop early because there's any people coming for voting, etc. I also have to take my kids to get their PCR testing again, so it works out well. Any questions from you guys? Next week we are 99% not meeting. I have to work next weekend on Sunday, and I don't think I will be out of work in time. Just keep an eye on the updates on the WhatsApp, etc. Because if something changes my work schedule, I'll let you guys know, inshallah. Cool? Subhanallah bihamdi, subhanakum bihamdik, la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk, wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. We don't.
No, you remember, that's the only person who can vote.
Yeah, yes, I don't know who I think. I literally don't expect for that.
Basically, there are 5 people, 5 positions, 5% nominated.
Okay.
Now the election is only one position for only 1 year, the remaining 4 are 2 years. Okay. That's the only election for right now. The least person who gets the vote will get in 1 year.
Okay. I don't know any of your names.
It's a way, yes.
I bet they just go with you by so that they wouldn't give any benefit.
Yeah.
Who's running?
So there is Ranak Maybe,
I know him.
Anis Mirza,
I know him.
and Sayyid Abdullah. They were both already in the board, like previous board, so they're re-electing it. And then there's 2 more is Wakar, the architect.
Okay, So I'm just not gonna. It's a trust I don't want to violate just by expecting that.
So you can, like if you know 3 people, you can just vote for 3.
Yeah.
So they get, those 3 get, you don't have to do all 5.
Okay. I just want to check with you. So next week there's a good chance. I told them we're not gonna have class. I'm supposed to be working. We have a work meeting for Saturday and Sunday all day long. But I'm gonna know by Thursday, Wednesday, Thursday, what the schedule is.
They just let me know and then we'll check it out.
Yeah.
And then you know how many lectures are more left in this one? Or?
I'm just taking it slow, but I can increase it if you want.
No, I was just asking, so you do it, whether it's coming on in April, right?
Why don't we make the goal to finish Ramadan?
Yeah, it will go through then it's fine, yeah.
Yeah, inshallah. We haven't gotten to his fighting career yet, but fighting career is actually less detailed than this career. This is
No, you're fine if
Yeah.
you go through Ramadan, then you can take a break and you start later for the next
it's
stuff.
what yeah.
Yeah, but there's gonna be spring break in between
GG.
here and there and off somewhere.
Yeah,
Yeah, we should be okay.
sounds good.
Inshallah.
Jazakumullah khairan.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله